I do these like all the time for sellers. And it's really hard whenever you reverse it for a buyer. But it's just in reverse, but it's still hard to get your mind around. The main thing that you want to do is you do want to get through it quickly, and you want to separate what you do exclusively from everybody else, and you want to do it in a way that's casual, which you did, by the way, but relational. And so the more time you spend explaining it, the more confused they will get. And I'd stay away from words like agency. I love relationship. There's 3 different relationships, because some relationships are good and some relationships are not so good, right? And people understand that naturally, but when you say representation or you say agency, it automatically puts up a wall, because it sounds like legalese, and people, their comfort level comes down. So I know you've been doing it for a long time, and that's how you were taught, but I would suggest that you try to substitute some of those words. And I love the part that you gave about confidentiality and all that. That's very, very good. But in a buyer's mind, they don't even know what representation really is, other than the court of law, where they've had an attorney represent them, and that's a scary thing, right? So I know it's what they teach us, but I don't think it's a friendly, relational building word to use. I think if anything, it makes people more tense. So probably they wouldn't. No, it's good. I mean, you went over all of it. It was good, and I love how your intro on it. That's the only feedback I would give you is just try to get through it real fast. There's 3 relationships that occur in a transaction: seller agent, buyer agent, dual agent. The seller agent does this, boom, right? They're the bad guys. Anything you say can be used against you. Yes, you got that. Right? The dual agent, you never end up in good shape. And have you ever, when you get to doing the dual agent part on the listing contract or the buyer agent contract, do you find a lot of people start to get confused about dual agency? They know they don't want one person representing both parties, but they get it all confused. So when you deliver dual agency, it's got to be super clear. I always use hand gestures, because I think people are visual. They hear and they see. That's why this thing works. So dual agency is where you have one realtor trying to represent 2 people, the buyer and the seller. And they each have different goals. The seller wants to sell for the highest price. The buyer wants to buy for the lowest price. There is no way one person can represent 2 people with 2 different goals very well. Boom. We don't do that here. You don't have to worry about it, because we never do that. We do exclusive representation, which means that my relationship is completely to you and loyal to you in your best interest. Use the words that people love to hear: loyal, relationship, confidential. Pull out those words in your script. And I don't have them all for a buyer either, like I do for a seller, but just always think about whatever it is you're delivering in really easy terms that the buyer feels good about you about, doesn't get confused, right? And make it quick, because they're going to want to get in that house. And if you take too long, they're just going to get frustrated. So you've got to be real concise with that.
Do you ever get them in there and kind of warm them up a little bit, and then say, hey, look, there's a couple things that I have to go over with you. Does a real estate commission,
I think you should at least mention that there's a very important brochure that you need to give a copy of to them, that your license is dependent upon it. And if you didn't do it at the very beginning, and you've talked and you've asked them a lot of questions, and then all of a sudden you bring it out, unless you segue that with, I'm an exclusive buyer agent, I want you to know that everything you shared with me as we've been looking through this house is confidential. Even though I don't have anything signed where you've hired me, I still, respect you and everything. It's confidential. I do have to give you a copy of this brochure, because if you don't do that part, all of a sudden you've contradicted yourself. with this is a brochure that we have to give at first, whoa, you just asked me all these questions and now you're telling me that? You see what I mean? So you got to be careful.
Well, no, I meant get them in the house and walk around a little bit and say, hey, look, we talked on the phone, I know you've seen the pictures and everything, and I told you, I've been in real estate for a long time, so I hate bringing this stuff up, but the real estate commission, I have to explain some things to you.
Yeah.
Like, before you walk around.
I would get them in the home, because making them stand outside in the cold or in 100 degrees weather you're going to drive them crazy. I would definitely step them inside the home. I would share, I got that red folder, I would share that you have some very important materials to give to them before they leave.
Yeah.
And then I would end up in the kitchen so that you could do that.
That's what I did.
Before we part, let's step in here. I mentioned to you that I've got something to give to you. The first thing is this brochure. Have you seen this brochure before?
You do it sometimes after showing the house.
No.
Well, maybe try to get them to the kitchen.
Yeah.
But if you try to rush them right from the front door to the kitchen and it's not like boom right there, they're going to be like frustrated because they want to see the house and you're rushing them through it. All right? So you're just going to have to go with the flow. You kind of feel what it is they want. Some people will stop right there and just want to go ahead and get it done right there in the foyer.
And from the commission standpoint, it's at first substantial contact, right? So as
It
long
is.
as you've gotten it accomplished at some point during that meeting.
Yeah.
It used to be where you couldn't do anything without even having a fire day.
The phrase that got beaten in our head was first substantial contact.
Right. And that could be anything from a telephone conversation where you go, oh, hey, by the way, let me explain agency, to an email correspondence, well, hey, let me shoot this over to you. But when you're an exclusive buyer agent, that takes a whole lot off because that's all you do. But if you were wearing all kinds of hats, then it'd be a different thing. But, when your card says buyer and relocation specialist, that you represent buyers exclusively, you can work as a buyer agent even though you don't have anything signed. But you got to have it signed before you write a contract.
Of contract or point of offer.
That's correct. That's correct. And you can even say, I'm an exclusive buyer agent, so for the purpose of me showing this home and getting to know you, even though we don't have anything officially signed, I'm going to be acting in good faith that you would like for me to represent you in that capacity, and I said represent, and I'm going to share everything I know about this property because I want to protect you. So ask me anything, I'm here for you. But I think what you don't want to do is you do not want the buyer to get fear-filled. And they can really get a lot of fear when you ask them to sign something too soon. But if you introduce and say, before we part from the home, I know out of respect for your time, I want to go ahead and show the home. But before we part, I've got some important information to give you in this red folder. And so if I could just have a few moments of your time at the end, please. And then you're going to remind them. By the way, I just need you for just a moment here in the kitchen.
Yeah. And I did way better in the field than that.
Oh,
I get nervous and role play stuff.
absolutely.
Yeah, role plays always offered.
Abs-
Live fire.
Yeah, I need live fire.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you've obviously done a beautiful job for a lot of years. I'm just emotionally telling you that words have a lot of power. And so if you can think about every chance you get to grab a word that maybe isn't moving the direction you want, you don't even know it unless you're paying attention to it, and substitute that with a word that makes people feel comfortable.
Lots of words.
Yeah. You'll move.
I like the hand gestures too. That's a good way to say it.
It's really powerful because you can say one agent representing two parties, and they're just like, because it's a foreign language to them to begin with. That's why they have such a hard time. You say it over and over, so you've got it. But for them, they're brain searching.